Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Lead Forward Summit 2025, where we are aiming to inspire leaders through mentorship. I'll be your session moderator. My name is Ogenovu Dafiaje. I'm an engineer, a strategist, a leader, and an innovator with over 17 years of extensive work experience, mentoring and leading teams. Here are some housekeeping rules for this session. Kindly note that the chat is disabled. All your questions should be put in the Q&A section where we'll have a Q&A moderator who will monitor the questions. We'll review and address your questions to the speakers at the appropriate time. We may enable your audio to allow you to ask your questions if we have sufficient time. Our panel discussion this morning is on crossing borders, building bridges, how immigrants lead and thrive across cultures. And with us this morning as panelists are Babajide, Ken Morris, and Olga Ismaglova. And the moderator for this session is Joanne Colley. I will hand over to Joanne to lead us through the panel conversations. Thank you. Joanne, over to you.
Thank you. It's so great to be here today, and I'm so excited to spend time with our panelists and with you, our audience, talking about crossing borders and building bridges, how immigrants lead and thrive across their whole challenges of life, because we're going to have a great discussion about their journey and what we can learn from their journey. So first, I'd like to kick it off and have each panelist just briefly introduce themselves and where they're at now, what they're doing now. So let's start with Ken.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Joanne. Good to see you all. So my name is Ken. I'm founder CEO of a company called Codify. We are a software services company, and I've been in this business for the last 10 years. I have been in the Valley for the last 25 years. Based in Sunnyvale, California. My journey started in India, where I was born, brought up, did my undergrad over there, and the first 12 years of my career over there, I never wanted to leave India, but things happened, and then here I am. I wanted to come here for my MBA. I said I'll go back after 3 years, but again, here I am after 25 years, still pretty much here. Now I'm in the phase of my career where I want to give back, and that's the reason why I'm with the Mentoring Club.
Excellent. So we're going to get more into the specifics of Ken's journey, what prompted him to move in the first place. And what's great about our panelists, as you'll discover, is they all cross borders at different stages in their life. And so that's going to be exciting to explore, what that looked like and what they learned from that. So next, we're going to pop over to Babajide.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, wherever you may be. I am Babajide Show Your Day. Although I am in Chicago now, I am living permanently in Lagos, Nigeria. I came to the United States for the first time in 1961, exactly September 1st, 1961. To start university at Purdue University. At that time, it was not a question of emigrating for me. I was simply going out to study with the intention of returning to Nigeria to give value of my education to Nigeria, which I did because I was on full government scholarship, part United States government, part federal Nigerian government, and so it was morally necessary for me to go back, but voluntarily I went back after my education and 7 years practical experience in my field,
And your field, Bobby. Let me introduce you first. Let me interrupt you for a second, because currently now the majority of your career in Nigeria and other places in the world, because I know you travel, has been an advisor in the oil and gas industry. Is that correct?
Precisely in petroleum refinery.
Okay.
Everybody have heard of the Dangote refinery, which was commissioned last year. I worked as a technical consultant and advisor to the owner for 12 years, right from the beginning until August last year.
Okay,
I'm still really silent.
Yeah, right. You're trying to get out.
Yeah, because he's still paying me.
Yeah, and that's an extraordinary thing because if anybody understands that refinery and what's happened with it and who is spearheading it, that's an amazing place to be able to advise. And so Babajini's journey has been quite extraordinary. And with that, we're going to jump over to Olga, and Olga is going to share, just introduce herself and where she's at right now.
Yeah, so my name is Olga, and originally I'm from Central Asia, Kazakhstan. It's a big country with 138 nationalities. And I lived, the most important, that's immigrants panel, right? So that I lived in 6 countries: Kazakhstan, Russia, United Kingdom, Malaysia, Czech Republic, United Arab Emirates. Currently, I am in Central Europe and in Czechia. And I'm finance professional with the 20 years of experience. It's actually my career and all these moves that was related to relocational career. I am, let's say, ambassador of the professional development for finance people because AICP is SEMA. And I'm also career catalyst, mentor, and coach. So it's actually that like helping people to build their normal career and also relocational career. And it's possible from any part of the world. You can build and utilize your potential. That's all.
So I think this is very exciting because we have 3 different people that move to 3 different stages in their life. And it's going to be interesting to see as we go throughout our discussion what shaped you, what you learned, particularly what you learned about leadership, etc. So I'm going to go to the next question. And Babajini sort of jumped the gun a little bit because he answered the question, and that is, what made you jump the border the first time? And for Babajini, it was going to Purdue University, boiler up, Purdue University, to study. And what did you study, Babajini?
No, what made me join is that on full scholarship,
Full
tuition,
scholarship,
transportation, living elements, full scholarship.
Okay.
I studied chemical engineering.
Okay, chemical engineering. And
Yes.
so with the full scholarship, you were able to come to Purdue and major in chemical engineering. Now,
Yes.
let me ask you this. Did you have a natural interest in chemical engineering? Was that a natural interest to you?
Chemistry was my best subject in secondary school.
Bless your
But
heart.
I didn't want to just do chemistry. I wanted something applied chemistry. And the best one, especially noting that Nigeria became independent in 1960. And certain young people are being sent abroad to acquire technological and other developmental experiences, So chemical engineering just fits, is the way I can apply my interest in chemistry to development,
Yeah.
practical development. Yes.
Okay. And so, I love, and as we listen closely to what people are sharing, I like to connect the dot of natural interest and then a practical need. So because one of the things that Babaji shared before is sort of the sense of mission to go back to his country and help. And so I think when in career decisions, it is sometimes we will make decisions where it's not a natural interest just because of the money or something like that. But really, it's important. I know Olga can speak to this, that having a natural interest is important in sustained success. I call it your through line. It's part of your origin story. And so we could hear that in Babajini's story. So I'm going to jump over to Ken. Ken, what made, and you sort of alluded to this first, but I want to zero in on your answer, Ken. What made you jump the border and come from India to the U.S.?
Yeah, so it's for my story is I didn't want to give the long version initially, but the long version is that I left India when I was 12, 13 years into my career. I was doing pretty well in the corporate world. I was reporting to the CEO, a very senior position. But then I decided to go to the Middle East. I used to work in Saudi Arabia for 4 years. And at the end of 4 years, I had to make a choice whether I had to stay back in Saudi Arabia, which I could, or go back to some other country, or migrate to Canada, Australia, etc., or go back to India. India had no jobs at the time. It was very job market was very tight. So I was looking out. I was not going to go back to India, and so the option came when this was the dot-com boom in the U.S. and a company in the
Mm.
U.S. offered me a visa, and I decided to come to the U.S. So I was not dreaming to come to the U.S., but here there was somebody giving me a visa to come and work in the US. So I said, yes, why not? And I can go and do my MBA as well. That was the reason why, that was the primary motivator, because I want to do higher studies in the US.
Yeah. And I appreciate that because one of the things that's happened even in my career journey is I call it career detours, where it may not be what you thought you were going to do at first,
Right.
but it ends. But when you and the other thing from Ken's story that I just kind of want us to zero in on for a moment is looking at trends. That in his decision making, there was a trend going on in the U.S. that he could leverage. Where in India, things were tightening up from an employment standpoint. And so looking at trends, and then he'd say, well, I didn't really want to come to the US. It's like he's in mid career. That's another very important point of Ken's decision. He was already into his career. And now, what do I do? He looked at trends. He looked at the reality of going back to his home country, and then decided, how can I take advantage of that? That's strategic planning. And we really do need to have strategic planning in our careers. Look at planning ahead, seeing what's going on, and then being able to make decisions, because then you're doing risk management too, deciding how much am I going to risk by moving to a country and then not going back to my home country. So Ken, before we move to Olga, Ken, did you feel an element of risk, and or how much or how little when you made that
Yeah.
decision?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is no. I I didn't feel any risk, but that has got to do with the age as well. In your 30s, you think you can conquer everything, and it was also a factor of the fact that I was in a senior leadership position in India as well as in Saudi Arabia. I was actually the country manager over there. There was nobody above me. I mean, I was just reporting to nobody there. So
Mhm.
I mean, all that gave me probably a false sense of confidence that I can do anything. Maybe that. I mean, I think so, but
Yeah.
I was confident. I would say I was quietly confident that I could do well wherever I went. And my idea was to go and do an MBA. My idea was not to come and settle down in the US. My idea was to do an
Mm.
MBA from the US, and then I know if I get this MBA and go back to India, I will be in a very rare group of people who have a MBA from US, and I could actually be much in demand in the job market over there. So
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think maybe a minor risk would be you're already up in senior leadership and you had some leadership opportunities that you sort of had to almost start from scratch a bit, like
right,
start, in a different position. There's a little bit of like up the corporate ladder risk, but that was much outweighed by the boom in Silicon Valley, so many opportunities, of course, and then getting your MBA. So it's very
right,
exciting.
right.
Olga, what made you jump the border initially?
It's actually, I was thinking about my jump. So it's actually when I graduated my Academy of Management in Kazakhstan. It's like international economic relations. I'm just an international economist. I started working in joint venture, and then I won the program of Chancellor Financial Sector Scheme, which was for 2,000 former Soviet Union young professionals to get Western experience in the United Kingdom for the period
Interesting.
up to 1 year. And I was one of the last intakes. That's actually maybe my lottery ticket, right? I was not thinking that, because that was like adventure, that I was applying just to get my IELTS test for free. And actually, I got the entire placement for work for 8-9 months in the United Kingdom, and that was my first foreign travel, like I say, outside of my country,
Mm,
completely to the new environment and straight to work. That was
mm,
the big recalibration of the cultures. It's just like, let's say, a few years before Soviet Union crushed, right? It became the independent countries, and it's already like developed country, which is actually everything is running. And it was, it was a lot like just like not acceptance and acceptance. It's actually it changed my mindset. And I returned after this program. I returned back to Kazakhstan, and I realized that I already thinking differently, and I will not fit this environment. So
ah,
I see the borders are open, and I'm ready to grow. And that time I already was working in KPMG, and that time I already was knew about the professional qualification, and I wanted to go and grow like in professionally, be employable, like see my journey in Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, where I'm now like leading in Europe, like the committee. But that was a challenge. Straight away, but I really appreciate because that was upskilling and growth, and
mhm.
it was very high like growth zone, and
Yeah.
also cultural awareness.
Yeah, and it's interesting because what I'm hearing you say is I changed when I came and I saw and I experienced a new culture. I'm sure it was culture shock, new opportunities. There's I had to decide what kind of person I wanted to be and what kind of opportunities I wanted to take. And that actually leads me to my next question is in your once you crossed the border and you came to a new place. I'm going to go to Babajidi. Babajidi, when you came to Purdue, what did you learn about yourself as a person?
Please understand, I was a student.
Yeah, right.
So you are not really thinking about yourself. You are thinking about your classwork,
Got it.
and you are thinking about challenging. Yeah. And really, fortunately, I had a good time at Purdue. So there was really no reason for me to think, why did I come? I have I must here, I mean, in 4 years, I must get my bachelor's. In this year, I must do this, and then I must go back home. And of course, and I did not encounter any discrimination, any problem in classroom, and also in society, even though it was at the height of a civil rights.
Mm.
No, so I did it. And in fact, I could have stayed here
Mm.
if I wanted to.
But you had the need or the feeling, the
No,
mission to
I
go back.
had decided morally myself
Ah.
that really, generally, the Nigerian culture, the society is is more amenable to me. I like it, you know.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so Nigerian culture, and it's more like the Southern culture here in the United
Mhm.
States. But I
Mhm.
like to be back there, especially I got the green card. I could go back and forth,
Right.
which is I'm a citizen of the United States. So
Yeah, so here's what I hear you say, which is interesting. Really, the Nigerian culture was more amenable and you went back, but then you ended up becoming a citizen anyway.
yes, I mean, because it's easier for me I mean, it's
Yeah,
later because of the problem with visa and so on. It
yeah,
also my children and so on, they were able to get visa, even
right,
they became citizens because they also three of them came to school here, although, and they are living here now. You know,
right,
but my
right.
point is that the American system I see is that if you are willing to work hard, you will succeed. And nobody
Mm-hmm.
is going to look at you, while
Mm-hmm.
you produce, you work, you will succeed.
Yeah, yes. And so that's you guys are all testimony to that premise too. So Ken, when you first moved here, when you did the move, because there's a lot going on, you're in the height of, the dot-com boom, you're going to get your MBA. What were you learning about yourself during this time?
So I have to make a correction over there. I mean, I was selected to come here during the dot-com boom, but it took them about 9 months to get me a visa.
Mm.
So by the time I traveled over here, the boom became bust. I mean, the market, the market had crashed so much so that my first manager, who when I came here, he said, "Hey, Ken, welcome to US. And do you know what? You actually caused the crash over here." So,
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
no, he was joking, of course. And so it was a very tough time. And what I realized about myself was what I said earlier, is that it actually, the first 2 or 3 years validated that I had a very strong base and put me wherever in the world I can actually, uh, you know, take care of myself, thrive, and do well. So that was what, in the first 2 or 3 years, that is what I learned. That whatever I had learned, wherever it was, because I learned from one of the best companies. In my earliest part of my career, I used to work for Xerox. And I can't praise Xerox enough that the kind of foundation they gave me for my career, I can go and work anywhere in the world. So that was a validation of what I said earlier, that I
Yeah.
can come here and I can still do well.
You know, what's funny is you had mentioned something about having maybe, it wasn't the word misplaced, but maybe a little bit of maybe overinflated confidence. I think you something that effect. And
Yes,
what I think is interesting is in each of your stories, and your confidence, the confidence is a muscle. I see confidence as a muscle, and it
right,
has to be exercised. And you can only exercise confidence if you take risks.
correct.
And so in your so Ken, it did prove to be true that you can,
Yes,
grow your confidence served you well in terms of adapting to, the changing dynamics once you got here to the country as well. So
right.
Olga, I'm gonna ask you the same question. What were you learning about yourself as you were going through that transition?
Very good question, Joan. So it's actually between, let's say, first we are when we are moving, like it's like more about resilience, adaptivity, and cultural awareness, because it's everything is on the other side of the moon, right? It's unknown. And
Mm-hmm.
we are learning about ourselves, that how we are psychologically or professionally resilient, because it might be the same company, but people are different. It's different environment. What I learned in my experience, that it's not the same, that I need to adjust and what to learn a lot. So it's actually from resilience and building this confidence muscle. I really love it. I'm taking this confidence muscle. And also when there's like the weak moments, accept yourself, like these weak moments when just like when we cannot make decisions, just like breathe out, like take pause, and then tell them, no, I'm not victim. It was my choice to move, and why I moved, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
was my choice. And then it's actually, and what I can learn from that experience in that moment, and that is actually paradigm shift in the mindset. That moment happens, that the mind is just not like this, like, okay, what I'm learning a lot what's happening. And this is and the curiosity becomes outweighs. That's actually also builds on the
Mm-hmm.
success stories or network building, or you're learning. I consider this like first half a year after move, this is adventure. You are learning a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved back from Asia, from Malaysia, just before pandemic started, I realized that everything's slow in Europe, like everything is the same. Like, but during these 2 years of assignment, I learned so much that's actually probably is replacing 10 years in Europe, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, this is the and also what was a big learning, it's the when no one is around, or like it's like everyone is 6 hours ahead, like, or like you cannot call, that you are listening to yourself and to your intuition, and actually like your core values and principle, and to find the solution within, relying on
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And it's actually also building that muscle, that what is the right solution for me and that in this
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Exactly. So did you so this question is for everybody. One of the things that's part of our part of the conference is lead forward, and leadership is really an underlying is a through line theme in our conference. And my belief is that we are all leaders in some way, whether we have a title or not, and that we were put on this earth to lead from our core values, lead from our core competencies, whether you have a sense of mission or purpose about that. And so and then you all have achieved leadership early on in your careers and now. So my question is, what did you learn about leadership as you've been going through different stages of your career. I'm going to go to Babajini first. Babajini, what did you learn about leadership as you've gone through different stages in your career?
Leadership, first of all, is confidence in yourself. Leadership is knowing organizational work. All right. But then leadership is delegation. So don't try to do everything. And leadership is respecting the feelings, every member of your team, no matter how low. All right. Yeah. And of course, leadership, of course, naturally, is being visionary. What is likely to happen to the organization. And leadership is also a willingness to accept the blame. Or in case something goes wrong, you accept the full blame on yourself.
What's interesting is when part of leadership is giving away work, like letting other people do, not thinking you have to do it all yourself, which is the antithesis of what a lot of people think. I've got to be the superhero. I've got to do it all myself. And that is absolutely not what leadership is.
No,
so,
it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
In fact, you will fail. You will fail.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can only, part of leadership is understanding your own capacity.
Yes.
Understanding your limits is part of effective leadership.
No, it's not even about that. If the success of people around or under you, all of that aggregates to you.
Yeah.
If they succeed, you also everybody, as if you have done the work. If they fail, they'll blame you.
Yeah, right. You're saying that there's
it's for you to make sure they do their work. It's not that you delegate. You delegate responsibility. You also monitor them. You mentor them, just as you are doing and mentor them, see what they are doing wrong and so on. Discipline. Everybody is disciplined. That is really that is not including yourself.
Yeah, including yourself. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So Ken, what along your journey, what are some things you learned about leadership?
So as I said earlier, my focus to come to the US was primarily to get my MBA. So I did that. As soon as I came here in 2001, and in 2002, I had already enlisted for my MBA. That the reason why I'm saying this is that also actually led to certain understandings about what I could do, my career path forward, and things like that. So since I had actually come here in my late 30s, I kind of figured that it was too late to start a second career over here. And as soon as I got my green card, I decided to go off on my own, which is like become an entrepreneur. It was a tough decision because you didn't have too much of background over here, but that is what I did. So I started off on a journey as a solo entrepreneur for about 6 or 7 years. And then once I gained confidence that I could do certain things, I actually added a couple of my earlier colleagues and now close friends to join the company. And that's how Codify started in 2014.
Wow. So that's a whole different, like a segue in a journey, because having and leading a startup is like being on mega confidence muscles. And also to that risk muscle, because now you're wholly dependent on yourself, and then adding staff. Did you feel like you wouldn't grow anymore unless you started your own company, Ken?
Yeah, so remember what I told you, that I was at a very senior position in India, and I had decided to come here to take my MBA, and the only thing that was not factored into all this was that by the time I finished my MBA in 2004, my daughter was already in her sophomore and junior year in college, in school.
Wow.
Sorry, in school, and to even think that I could actually relocate at that point of time back to India, I could have done very well in my career. I would have. I'm confident. I have a degree from here and all that kind of thing. But I would be putting my daughters, I have two daughters, in severe, I mean, kind of a struggle because they have to go back and the system of education in India is very different from here. Like in India, we follow the British system, whereas here it is an American system. In India, we have a 3-year degree, undergrad degree, whereas here you have a 4-year undergrad degree. So there are a lot of differences. And I kind of went through all this, thought process, and I said, no, I'm not going to go back to India. So at that point in time, I had decided that, okay, there is no career for me in India. I have to do a reboot over here. And so the reboot over here is that do I have a corporate career chance over here? Actually, the answer is no. Because when I made this decision, I didn't have a green card. So it was very, very difficult to actually get a job in a larger corporation without a green card. And so I decided to, and the next best option was to go off on my own. So that's how one thing led to the other, and probably this was the not the best option, but this was actually a good option to actually demonstrate my leadership skills as well as my I mean I had no grain of entrepreneurship in me at that point in time. There was nobody in my family who was an entrepreneur, but I decided to go ahead and do it anyway.
Well, you said something interesting that I really want our audience members to tune into, and that is it wasn't necessarily the ideal decision. It wasn't the ideal thing, but it was still a good one. And I think sometimes we will negate a good decision or a decision that could net some exciting results because it's not ideal. And I think that sometimes good gets in the good gets in the way of great, meaning that I think that's part of the good to great quote is sometimes um, actually great can be the enemy of good. You try to do too much, or you think
Right.
if it's not this, then you're not going to do it at all. You want to speak to that,
Right.
Ken? Yeah.
Right. And just to add to that, I mean, and later on, it proved that my decision about my kids' career was kids' education was absolutely right, because this is not a boast, but both of them went to Berkeley. I mean, both of them did their undergrad in Berkeley, and
Mhm.
I know I was so happy and excited about that because it was part of the decision that actually made me stay back in the U.S.
Yeah.
That actually even more emphasized the fact that, okay, whatever I decided, at the time not to go to India, stay back in the US was actually validated both by
Yeah.
my what I did in my career as well as what my kids did in their education.
And I think it's really interesting because, when we think about it, in the mentorship club, and those we mentor, part of it is helping people make decisions. And as what I love about what the panelists are sharing is how they made decisions and why they made the decisions they did, what was their thought process. And what I'm hearing is things can get messy. Things are not always clear.
Absolutely.
And there are extenuating circumstances. Like I took a huge career detour one time that ended up serving me really well when I started my own business. But if I'd have looked at that like 10 years earlier and said, "Hey, you're going to do this," I said, "No, I'm not going to do that." But then when I actually was presented with the thing to do, I made that decision, and it ended up being a really good decision long term. So I love the fact that things are not ideal. They don't have to be ideal, but sometimes we have to make a decision because all the circumstances says this is a decision you should make for now. And one of my favorite phrases is "action brings clarity." And
Right.
so we got to decide something, and that kind of brings us more to where we are. So, Olga, what have you learned about leadership along the way?
Okay, what I learned is actually the right balance between management and leadership, because management is about control, and leadership is about like also aligning and the values in leading and what is like the bigger purpose or vision you have and why you leading the people like okay we are going there but not but control is here. That actually I learned this like when I was working in Asia Pacific. I need to build a new team, and that was like really crucial for me, the right balance between being manager and being a leader, because I had assignment to run the business transformation to make Asia Pacific the best in the world, right? So the second is being leader in me. First, you are leading yourself, and then you can lead others, because otherwise other people will not believe. So it will be, let's say, it will be like they see the difference. That's when you're not following. It's not true, right? Also, it's about being the leader, as like leadership, that you need to have a pretty high level of emotional intelligence and empathy in order to see the other side and understand, and also what like the team is driven by, what is behind in every person, and being able holistically view the overall picture to find the right solution, and then show by example and go into that.
Those are really great points, and actually that kind of leads me to my next point, because emotional intelligence is about seeing the big picture and knowing how to respond appropriately in the big picture. And so not every panelist may have an answer to this question, but I'm just curious. In looking back, is there anything you would have done differently? In retrospect, and looking back, is there anything you would have done differently? And I'll just, not everybody may have an answer to that. Does anybody have an answer for that one?
In my case, no.
Oh, the answer is no. Okay.
Though, I will say, though, I am a little bit different from my co-panelists here. I was just a young secondary school student.
Yeah.
What do you know? Nothing. You went to the world. You are going on an adventure anyway. So
yeah,
I have no ties. I'm just going to get education and so. But reality, I had no choice. I want to go an education. I got one of the best universities. I got it. I got the job, and So and really, I had no. I don't know of anything that I could have done different at that age.
At that age. Yeah, and you know what interesting, Babaji, I just have to say this, because there's got to be some younger folks who are starting out. Sometimes you don't have a choice initially, but you can make the best of the choice that you have in front of you.
Yes.
And that is, I think, an important point. At any stage of life, sometimes circumstances are just such where you just got to make the choice that's in front of you at the moment. Doesn't feel ideal. It's not what you have wished for. But that's part of emotional intelligence too, is make the choice and then make the best of the choice.
Correct.
And looking at your amazing life, Babaji, you've just done amazing work in serving the human community and serving your country. So it's extraordinary how that sort of no choice turned out to be an extraordinary way of shaping your life and how you served people. So let me go to Olga. Olga, is there anything you would have done differently?
I would do something probably a little bit faster, instead of like preparing. Like my coach was telling me, like, stop doing podcasts, and I'm just postponing, right? And this is actually what I learned, that we need, like, we don't have time, like later will never come, right? Like if we have the opportunity, we're doing that. When I will start studying business coaching, it's actually I learned there is not only one or two solutions, because major, like, small businesses closing after trying 2 attempts and are not lucky, like they close, but they need to test 10 options, and then it might be lucky option, it might be 5 and might be not the 10, right? So we have some strategy. What I want to say, we have some strategy and vision of our life, our best version, how we want to live. There are few options to go there. There's not only one, and it's like just maybe a little bit shit, but overall, it's like our unique life.
Yeah, it is our journey. Exactly. I really love that. And so it's interesting to see how each of you in your stages in your life and career made decisions, and I can even tell in your personalities how even your personality sort of drove your decision making a little bit too. So and now as we're kind of coming on towards the end, so for those of you who are listening today and participating with us, please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A section for Babajidi, Olga and Ken, and we can make sure and get to those as we open up for a Q&A section before we end. And then let me ask Ken, is there anything, Ken, you would have changed and done differently?
Yeah, so I actually my learning to myself, and if I can let others know, is that if you are deciding to come to the US, I mean especially the US, you better come earlier than later. So
Yeah.
my decision to come when I was in my 30s was initially a decision to actually do an MBA and go back. And so if that is your decision, if you want to come for higher studies, at some point in your career, if you see your career is not going the way it is going, in my case, it was going very well. And the reason why I was opting for an MBA from the US is that I would actually be in a separate, very rarefied group of people who have done MBA from US and come back to India. But then if you want to stay back in the US, that decision has to come very early in your career. You should come like Babajini did. When he came for his undergrad over here or studies over here, or even if you don't come for your undergrad, you can come for your master's over here and then stay back and build a career at that point in time. You're young, you're probably not married at that time, you can build a family, and all that kind of things can happen because that's what it takes in US to do that. To come late, and I actually, honestly speaking, there are a few friends of mine who asked me back in India, hey, they're same age, 30, late 30s, early 40s. I got a green card. Should I come to US right now? I said, yeah, you can come, but don't have too much of expectations of your career in a corporate career over here because you are very late in that stage. You may have to find out what else you can do independently over here. So my advice, if you want to come and settle in the US, you have to come early, not late.
And that seems to be the theme, because that was Olga saying, Ken, when we were talking earlier last week, one of the themes was make decisions faster.
Right.
Because and that means, monitor your own sense of risk or fear. Don't let your fear. I mean, here are panelists who have done extraordinary things, traveled many countries, and had been exposed to many cultures, many different times of adjustment in their lives. And yet, look at how successful they've become. And, just being able to say, I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to, take the jump. I'm going to jump the border, whatever it is, to just go for it. Better now than later. That is actually great advice. One final question, and this is like a very fast answer. And that is, besides the do early, if you had told, what would you tell your younger self, like a one sentence piece of advice? If you would tell your younger self what you know now, what would you say? A one sentence piece of advice to your younger self. Olga, I'm going to have you go first.
Follow your passion and interest, because that brings the inner motivation. You don't need to look at the external motivation. That's the most important.
Excellent. Babajini, one sentence advice to your younger self.
Good job.
Oh, that makes me want to cry. Ken, what is one sentence advice to your younger self?
The United States of America is the best country to excel, to prove yourself. If you work hard, you will get the results. There is no other place like this in the world.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to actually start crying. I just like it's really amazing. Okay, let's transition over to our Q&A as we begin to wrap up.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask these just of the panel, and whoever has the best answer, just to keep us moving. Don't feel obligated that you all have to answer this, but we do have a few. So the first question is, if I'm graduating from college soon in Asia, how can I plan my move to the USA or Europe?
I think the first thing that you need to do is to apply for if you're coming here, for higher studies. I mean, the best way to come to US is to come and do higher studies over here and then transition to a job, because getting a job sitting in Asia would be very difficult unless you have a very specialized talent. So in order to apply for the universities, you have to do your GMAT and the GRE and your TOEFL and all that. And so that is what you need to do while you're doing your undergrad.
Excellent.
I suggest that to build network and get the mentor or sponsor, because it's mentor or coach, like mentor, from your professional field based in US or Europe, because it will give you the outlook that how that the new graduate, the early graduate can fit the competency requirements of the market and what needs to be learned before move and how to prepare, because the preparation, it might be like not 1 or 2 months, it might be like half a year due to the visa, it's like requirements, etc. But get the mentor from your professional area in the location where you target to.
Thank you both very much. The next question is here. Let's see. This one's answered live. Thank you. It's how do you motivate your team to work collectively towards achieving a goal?
One of the ways to motivate a team is by having a team create micro goals. So sometimes goals can feel daunting or big or overwhelming. One way so that if a team can say, okay, if we could just do this, it's a fast win. It builds confidence. They learn how to collaborate quickly. And so then they get motivated to do the next win. And so finding a fast win with a short, doable goal is one way to motivate a team. Because you want to build motive to get motion so you can get momentum. And that's by doing that in short snippets is one technique to do that.
Excellent. Thank you, Joanne. Absolutely. Let me see. And the next question here, folks, feel free. We do have a little bit of time, but the next question on this list says, coming to the U.S. from another country and society, how would you compare the talents and employees in the U.S. versus the countries that you came from?
Oh, great question.
Yeah, that's very relevant to this panel.
It keeps changing. I mean, so I came here 25 years ago, and I'm basically from a techno-commercial background. And what I could find over here is that, the people or the companies or the environment over here, maybe it's because of the immigration that, you are exposed to various cultures, and you have a higher amount of exposure. That is the very nature of the employees in corporate over here. Whereas if you look at your country where you came from, in my case, I was coming from India. I mean, we never had that exposure because we always used to work in a domestic environment, and it was at that time the multinationals were just coming into India in a big way, and people from India were just starting to travel out for work, for higher white collar work. So if you come back to now to this time and age, 2025. I mean, I think that those variations or that the deltas are very much less right now. Now you see that a huge number of Indians have started working abroad in the US, in Canada, in Europe, and that difference that I'm talking about between the talents over there in India as well as over here, that has reduced quite a lot. Many of the youngsters today actually migrate, come to the US for their higher studies, and then go back to India and then do very well over there. So I think it's a generational thing. When I came here 25 years back, it was the differences were visible or palpable, and now it's not that much.
Well, I think when I came, of course, it was much different. There are very few multinational then in the 60s. And I found the Americans were just as competitive as my classmates back in Nigeria. So, and they're always very hardworking, I think, and highly disciplined, So I don't I mean, one, you should not take for granted the competence of Native American, be they white, black, whatever they are. They were quite competent.
I will add only a couple of words. So it's actually already been where you are. It's possible to monitor the market requirements in terms of competency and to build your upskilling, or skill set gap analysis. You need to know where you missed something, and you can get it already now in order to be in the line of the market in terms of competencies and watching the trends. John, that's coming back to the trends, that when you have the right skill set, you don't need to search for a job, the job will find you, right? So that the most important that this is it's now we shift from a lifetime learning into the lifetime employability. That means the constant upskilling, that you will be employed not targeting on one country, but everywhere. Where it's better, that you will move there.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks to our panelists, Babajide, Ken, Olga. Thank you very much. It was really engaging. Thanks to our wonderful moderator, Joanne. You did a swell job. Really appreciate you all. And I know I, for one, have gained a lot from this session, as well as all the participants. Thank you very much. As we round up this session, kindly click on the QR code on your screen and take a survey for this session. Kindly note that for every session survey you complete, you get a free 1 month subscription from us as a mentee. And if you complete 6 survey sessions, you will get 6 months free subscription as a mentee. We also have freebies for the first 10 respondents to our surveys. Kindly note that these exclusive giveaways may not apply to you if you are in Africa, Asia, or Oceania due to some freight forwarding concerns or challenges we will face. We also have a number of workshops lined up in the course of the year. Feel free to join and register for any of these workshops using the QR code on your screen. And just like you've seen today already, you know that these sessions are going to add value to your career. We would strongly advise you register as a mentor or a mentee in the mentoring club, where we develop leaders. Please, if you know you have a passion to be a mentor or you need mentors, kindly click on the code and register to join us in the mentoring club. We have a VIP pass for our 90th anniversary with a bonus. If you sign up now, you get a 9% discount, and we'll gladly have you with us today. Our next session coming up is a keynote session, how to raise successful people. As we sign out of this session, there is going to be a video that you would watch about the mentoring club, our journey so far. We advise that you kindly also stay with us in this session till the end at the top of the hour. If you can network, the chat box will be open now to every one of us. You can drop some messages, network amongst yourselves, and make some new connections. Thank you. It's been nice having you here with us. Have a splendid day.
You don't have all the answers necessarily, but if you can kind of bring somebody through, listen to what their circumstance is, what they're trying to achieve, and see if you can add any value to that and help them think through the challenges that they're going through. I don't necessarily think it's always my place to solve the problem. I think that's the responsibility of the person themselves. But if I can coach or give some advice or encourage or suggestions or other scenarios, that's for me. And I think a big important part of that, and particularly with Can, is that somebody is just open to the process, that they're open to be part of this, to hear some different things. And they might not necessarily agree with everything that they hear with, but at least they're open to participate in hearing about it. And they might go, that's perfect, or that's something that I can work with, or no, I don't think that is useful, but at least it gives the person something that they can work on.
I am a leader. I was born to a modest couple in the Philippines, the youngest of 4 girls. My mom was my greatest influence. I take after her with her kindness and creative problem-solving discipline. I have been in California for 22 years now. I joined an internet consulting company in Silicon Valley as business development manager in 2002, became chief operating officer and part owner after 8 years, then exited in 2020 to focus on the Mentoring Club, my give back passion project. The Mentoring Club connects working people to accomplished leaders for leadership development mentoring. With a growing community of hundreds of mentors, mentees, volunteers, donors, and partners globally, we are giving the gift of leaders to the world.
What is my vision for the Mentoring Club? When I started the Mentoring Club in 2016, I declare that our mission is to provide a mentoring community for young leaders. When we launched, not only young leaders signed up, mid-career people and advanced career people signed up. And so we evolved our mission to provide a mentoring community for aspiring and seasoned leaders, where seasoned leaders refer to both the mentors and the mentees. Today, anywhere in the world, we help working people find mentors who can guide them to develop the skills they need to achieve their career and life goals. We help mentees fulfill their goals through meaningful work that creates positive impact in the world. We believe that when we're doing meaningful work, that's when the leaders in us come out because we care about the results. And when we care about the results, then that is how we can make a positive impact in the world. Ultimately, my vision is that as mentees become successful leaders, my dream is for them to become mentors to others. And that's how the cycle of giving back can continue, hopefully without end, hopefully even long after I'm gone.
When Lisel put that vision on the screen, it made it so easy for me, one, to take in, and two, to brag and share. This is what the Mentoring Club is about. Now, contrast that with, here's a one-page brochure. Read it and then share it. I'm not likely to do that, but just because Lisel made it easy for me to see a picture, the best part of the picture, I could see myself in that picture.
One of the ways we attract people into the Mentoring Club is to share our leadership core values. Our anchor values are trust, leadership, and community. Under trust, we believe that integrity, honesty, and commitment are what make us trustworthy as individuals and professionals. Under leadership, we believe that health, vision, and execution are all needed to be successful leaders. One without the others pretty much leads to nothing. We have to have all of them. And it is understandable that not all of us will be great at both visioning and execution. So if you're great at visioning, find somebody to help you execute. And if you're great at execution, find somebody whose vision you can support and help execute. That way, both of you can become successful leaders. And the last anchor value, community. Under community, we believe that humanity, contentment, family are the social grounding forces that make us feel fulfilled and happy. At the end of the day, even though we're successful as leaders, if we don't have anybody to share that success with, then it will be a lonely success. And so we encourage everybody to think about their values. And if those values align with ours, then this may be just the right community to be a part of. What are the proofs that the vision and the mission are being realized? Throughout this conference, I invite you to watch some of the testimonials that our mentors and mentees are sharing about their experiences within the community.
I have some prepared again, my amazing, beautiful Google document, and I come with it to Josie with my goals, early goals and monthly goals. And Josie asked me, Anya, what's about your victories? I'm absolutely sure you have some victories today. Would you please mention something? And it was so super usual day, absolutely boring meetings on the job, not victories, not something to, I don't know, really important. And I was a little even speechless. I was not ready for this kind of discussion. Josie explained me a little that actually you have a lot of good work, you are nice, and you did something nice today, and it's okay to name it as victories, your small own victories every day.
One thing's for sure, the relationship of a mentor and a mentee is a serious one. And it is not a spur of the moment thing. It is not something we just feel like doing on a Monday morning. And the commitment and the deliberate effort to work on that relationship is paramount. And you've got to give it enough time to work, because maybe when you first a couple of meetings, it take a while for the chemistry to work, but you can't just make a conclusion and say, no, it didn't work out, I'm going to call it quits now. give it enough time to work through, but put your efforts in. But for the mentor, I think in particular, it's not like you've been engaged to do a one-session advice and then you can click off and then not worry about it until you meet again. Mentoring is about thinking about the other person when they're not there. You need to think about what is the next step. What are the next things that you could add value to their lives? Whether you have it or you don't have it, you can research it or you can talk to your friends about it. But in other words, you need to be thinking about that individual that you're trying to care for. Well, this is what the relationship is. So if we have the attitude of reaching out to try and provide as much as we can in a loving way and a caring way, then I think the mentee will benefit either way, and you will benefit from the response that comes back.